It's tabletop time.
I'm Dave.
And I'm Jen.
And today we're going to make a gnarly Pokemon diorama with huge monstrous Pokemon. Pokemon Legends Arceus has just come out and it is set in feudal Japan, so that is going to be the inspiration for our diorama today with a twist.
Kaijus, big monsters like Godzilla and Mothra.
Today's video is sponsored by Gamers Grass and they have some amazing brand new products that I cannot wait to try on this diorama. But to start this ambitious project, we need some models to work from. So let's go online and have a look at what we can find.
And fire up that 3D printer.
So inspired by the new release of Pokemon Legends Arceus, I was immediately thinking of something mythological. What would Pokemon be like in a pre-civilized world? With the intense Japanese visual theme of the new game, I immediately thought of kaiju like Godzilla. And my many hours trawling through my mini factory had led me to find amazing kaiju minis by a creator called Becca 3D. I chose the Venusaur pack, and I'll explain why a little bit later in the video. Now with our monster picked, we needed something to confront it. And what could be more iconic in the new game than a regional variant? I found some Hisuian Growlithe models on Cult 3D by the creator Bankai 3D. And with our Pokemon protagonist, antagonist, it was time to get some terrain. I'm a longtime subscriber of Heroes Infinite's website for 3D models, and this month they had a whole bunch of Japanese themed scenery, as well as a range of awesome models. So I grabbed a torii gate and some other decorations to fill out the scene. But when I was there, I saw the perfect monster hunter heroine, a female archer, and decided to grab that too. Jen would be taking over painting all of these props while I tackled Venusaur Kaiju itself. The printing process itself took about a week, with multiple printers running overnight doing massive prints of these huge Kaiju scale models. This is the biggest complete model I've ever 3D printed, and it kind of gave me a taste for it. All the models printed up really nicely and went together fairly well, with a large model such as Venusaur suffering a little bit of minor shrinkage. To fix this, I used Milliput to seal all the gaps, and on a massive organic knobbly creature like Venusaur, you don't even notice it once it's painted. I'm actually pretty happy with the job I did here. With all the 3D prints treated, cleaned up, and ready to go, I primed them all in Chaos Black. It's Australian summer and it is unseasonably humid where we live, making it very difficult to airbrush and spray down layers. So with the air conditioner cranking and the humidity uncomfortably high, I set about layering on paints and waiting too long for them to dry. For Jen's models, I just left it at a spray paint, including the terrain, as such small detailed figures she'd be hand painting. But for Venusaur, I went on and grabbed the airbrush, creating the bulk of the color in his flesh with some gradients of a slightly green tinted blue. On the leaves, I used rattle can sprays to put down the gradient of green, and then on his flower, I used a red primer. With Venusaur assembled and his base colors down, I could get a feeling for how big he would be and start blocking out the terrain. But to do this, I would need a base. So it was time to go to the warehouse and have a look. All right, so to make a diorama, we've got to base it on some foam. We've got plenty of offcuts from our board builds here. All right, I'm immediately drawn to that irregular shape. So we have the base for our diorama. I think this will make an incredibly impressive corner diorama. It is quite large, but I think it's definitely deserving of it. I carved down a little bit of a gradient on the front side of the foam just to make it a little bit more interesting than the rugged cut look that it already had. And then I mixed up some sculptor mold just to slap on some variation in elevation. I then mixed some dark earth diorama paste with a whole bunch of sawdust and PVA glue to create a thick and quick coating that would give a lot of earthy undergrowth texture. To get it ready for the trees, Venusaur, and the scatter terrain, I set about applying some flocks, a couple of undergrowth ones, as well as some static grass. But I knew the bulk of this scenery and what was really going to bring it to life and make it feel like Venusaur's tropical forest stomping grounds would be today's sponsor. Products from Gamers Grass, including their brand new range. I'm not kidding, this is a game changer. I'm so impressed with these. These are Gamers Grass' new laser cut plants that includes an absolute plethora of different designs, from a banana tree to lords and ladies and elephant ear, dumb cane, that sounds like me, Alien Rosette. They're all fantastic and they're all available on the Gamers Grass website and will soon be available in local retailers when they get them in stock. Before we've had flock and we've had clump foliage and we've also had little tufts and shrubs, and they all kind of followed the same visual look, but these really give those wide leaf dynamic appearances and I'm really stoked to actually dive into them. Gamers Grass products are absolutely awesome. I stand by them. I order them from my store. I also use them just all the time. I just want to talk about it. I just want to talk about it. I just want to sit there and like pull these things out and be like, look at the cool bits of foliage. It's so awesome. Oh, look at this tiny plant. But then they're going to drag me away and it's straitjacket again. So without further ado, let's see what we can do and how we can use these awesome products on our bases. But that'll be a kind of finishing step. So look forward to the end of the video for that one. Jen wanted to throw this at me the whole time. I don't know why.
So for this project, Dave's given me the very important task of painting some of the smaller pieces. So to begin the process, I started off with the growlers first. These guys are so cute. I started with 2 coats of just a red base for their fur, and then 2 coats of a grey colour for the extra fur on top. For the other objects, they also got 2 coats of just base colours. Greys, reds, pretty much the same colour palette for everything. I wanted to keep most of the colours a very neutral sort of tone. I wanted to make sure that Venusaur stood out the most. Once I had applied all of my base coat to all of my pieces, I then went through with just a simple wash, matching up the colours where they were needed and making sure everything got a nice thick coat of it. While these were all drying, I decided it was time to move on to the girl at the front. For her colour palette, I really wanted to incorporate some of the colours that the trainers in the new Pokemon game have. They've got some really subtle blues, greys, reds, but all a very muted tone. So she, like everything else, gets 2 coats of base paint and then she moves on to washes. Once all my washes had dried, I just went over with a dry brush just to pick out some of those highlight areas on some of the terrain pieces. This was pretty much it for these guys. They were done and ready to go, but my girl needed a bit more work. I went back and forth just picking out more of the highlights and changing the colours here and there where I felt like they needed to be contrasting. Again, I really wanted to make sure that she stood out, but she wasn't super imposing. Overall, I'm pretty happy with everything and I think it's ready to give over to Dave to finish it all off.
Knowing that Jen had been completing some awesome work beside me and getting all of the little parts completed on the diorama, I was free to really focus down and finish Venusaur. With such a large and well-textured model, several dry brushes were used to create a lot of the highlights, especially on the organic and messy areas. His skin, I highlighted up with just brighter mixes of light blues to get that effect from the top down, leaving the bottom areas and undercarriage quite shaded. On the leaves, I used a sponge to model on several browns just to give a bit of natural texture to the leafy greens. I then used dry brushes to pick out all the detail, focusing with a yellowy green color on the bulk of it, but using an even brighter mix to highlight the topmost areas. For the flower, I dry brushed a nice pink mix to catch out all of those veiny parts of the flower petals, and then I painted in white spots like Venusaur has. In the center of the flower, I painted with a Sahara Desert yellow, and then after an orange wash, dry brushed a bright yellow on top. The face was going to be the center of attention, so that's where I put a lot of my time. I was following Venusaur's traditional paint scheme, which meant red in the eyes, red in the ears, and red in the mouth. I base coated them red and then filled them with liberal crimson washes to make them nice, deep, and bring out some of that texture. Going back to the eyes, I repainted the center of them white and then painted a mottled red pupil. I deliberately painted these with uneven edges, kind of thinking of the Rick and Morty cartoon design for eyes where they're all blotchy. I thought that lended the Venusaur a kind of unhinged element that I really liked. I put a white dot at the center of the eye because that's what Venusaur has in the cartoons, and then I spiderwebbed his eyes with little gross veins to really make them look unsettling. On the inside of the mouth, I layered several blends of skin tones in with reds to bring that tongue up to a highlight. The claws and teeth I painted in bone, put an Agrax Earthshade wash on, and then highlighted up with bone to white. With this painted, I glossed the entire inside of the tongue with varnish. And then used a finishing touch of hot glue gun strands to connect saliva from his top teeth to his bottom. I then came back with a final highlight and did some rough reptilian stippled highlights on all of the scales on his face and the pronounced areas on his arms and his front paws. This Venusaur model is just uncannily evil looking, and the pose is powerful and it looks like it's just strutting out and roaring. It oozes that kaiju energy, and that's really why I chose it. This was just unique and also really iconically Pokemon. I don't think we really think about how much the Bulbasaur family is just so iconic. I'd put them easily in the top 10 of most recognizable Pokemon. So recently we've overhauled our patron tiers, and one of the new things we've added is a verbal shout out when you join our Patreon. And as a thanks to our existing patrons, we wanted to do a big catch up and do all our current patrons minus the people that signed up when we made those changes. Those people will be in the next video to come out. So without further ado and a lot of embarrassment, we promise we won't make it this cringe next time, but for Pokemon we just had to enjoy the Patreon rap. Cloud, yes, Dammy Zweggerman, Panda Cuddles, Magnus Miller, Wilson Jammin, Ty Tubbs, Nether Viking, Gregory Gonzalez, Creature X, Nadam Peck, Justin Krause, 10X Labs.
Think 'em, gotta think of all, Patreon will search on the net. Look far and wide to release their names with all the love inside.
Ian Dodd, Emma Granger, Jake Lockett, Nick, Katie Vincent, Tim Dalton, WIP, Tom Schofield, Rocket Brand Props, John Cosimano, Arthur, James Ben, Clarissa Mayer.
Gotta think of all, Patreon.
Grumpy T, Simon Obley, Eleanor Dean, Theo, Amaro Andrew, Max, Frank Ken, Patrick West, Digital Sock, Kevin McKenney, The Gallery of Colors, James Smith, Katie.
At least 100 or something or more to read. To be a Patreon master is our destiny.
Kimmick D, Simon Von Gumpel, Battle Maps, Ricky Doug, Ernie Z, Paul Folsom, and Stuart. Innocent Demons, Pixie Not Nexor.
Woo! We're at the halfway point. You're doing okay, I guess.
We? What do you mean we? I'm doing all the bloody hard work.
Break time's over, let's go!
Ali Slatini, TK8472, Pantacookie, Brian Lysette, Yellhead, Tris Mariah Nagel, KG, Jennifer Marino, Philip Jackson, Aaron Eckert.
Gotta think of all, yeah! Gotta think of all, yeah!
It's getting old, but we love you. I'm improving. Tanya, Roger, Philip House, Odin V, Ranimald, Place McLean, Jensen Sinclair, Miniature Scenery, Psychic, Chicken Smith, Tickle Duck, Mac Williams.
And at least 100 or something or more to read. To be a Patreon master is our destiny.
Big Arm Hero, Jennifer Dilgard, The Dark Fox, Rob W, Silj, Liz Sol, Lydia, Neil North, Jason C. George, and Benjamin Greenlaw.
Whoa, catch your breath, man. Shake out those lips.
It's down here from here, just like 12 to go.
Now it gets tricky, so listen real good.
Lyish, Kevin Thompson, Ligan, Gary, Hamels, Cameron Button, $2, Zanebeck, Elizabeth, Just Elizabeth, Valrock, Art Miniature, Sea Witchcraft!
Whoa, gotta think of all, gotta think of all. Gotta think of all.
Thanks, patrons! All right, to those who survived the Pokey rap, and to those who skipped it and safely arrived at this timestamp, welcome. It's time to put our diorama together and put together all the hard work that Jen put in and also my work on Venusaur and really give it a place as I envisaged at the start of the video. I placed one tree crushed under his foot at an angle and another one literally buried beneath him, as if he has trampled it and uprooted it and is now walking out of the forest with it beneath. I then filled out the tree line with a selection of Woodland Scenics trees to give a bit of variety and make sure they weren't all the same tone. I will confess to gluing these onto the base in the laziest way possible using hot glue. So I gouged little holes in with a pair of tweezers and then used liberal amounts of hot glue and just pressed the tree into position. With the tree line in, I had a rough framing for where I could place everything else. I glued down the torii gate, the lantern, and the shrine, and then added just a little bit of texture in the form of larger bushes placed around the bases of the trees to hide the hot glue. To do this, I used fallen flock that had come loose from the trees. But now it was time to move on to my favorite part, which was building out the ground coverage. And to do that, I was going to use entirely Gamer's Grass products. So we have these awesome large shrubs. I loved the idea of placing a bunch of these around Venusaur and around the tree line, because really, isn't tall grass where you encounter Pokemon to begin with? Maybe our intrepid hero shouldn't have strayed off the path, because this tall grass is hiding something a little more monstrous. After that was done, I grabbed a bunch of regular 6mm grass tufts and just placed them around to give a bit of texture to the earth. I find I lean towards focusing in clumps and placing them into groupings, while leaving only a few stray wild weeds. After this, I've got some Gamer's Grass flowers to add a bit of color to the scene and place them around. And while being monstrous, Venusaur is known for being the tender of gardens, so I wanted this area to feel very vibrant and alive, hence the liberal application of flowers. The flowers down, I could move towards the laser cut plants, and I must say I found a very rapid fondness for the bracken. Especially in this kind of scene, the leafy bracken is just something that you never see on miniature builds. Being able to glue a bunch of the bracken all around the bases and towards the tree line really helped make this place feel a little bit more vibrant and alive. But hey, enough talking. It's time to show you those glam shots, and let's see what this diorama looks like all together. Well, I hope you enjoyed those awesome reveal shots, and here we are at the end of another Tabletop Time video. Jen, thank you for helping me work on this project.
Anytime.
I hope you all enjoyed our little dive into making a very cool Pokemon diorama. If you're playing Pokemon Legends Arceus at home, I hope you're enjoying your time with that. A final thank you to our patrons, and thank you very much to our sponsor, Gamer's Grass. I absolutely love all your products and these new laser cut plants. Check them out on their website. And yeah, that's about it, I think.
Well,
it's weird, we've done our patron thing already in the video.
Oh.
Yeah, it's done.
Oh, okay, well, yeah, I guess that's it.
It feels different for us because we're not used to that. But hey, if you want a patron shout out in an upcoming video, check our Patreon page.
Well, I guess that's it.
Yeah.
We're all done. So do you want to play Pokemon cards?
Pokemon cards? I thought just Pokemon Battle.
Well, yeah, it's the same thing, but with trading cards.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So you're not into like dog fighting and betting on them?
No.
I don't know where I'm going. It's late in the day. I'm cooked.
No.